video in regards to enemies. Last time, in the last video, we looked at enemies. We're moving our enemies back and forth. But in this video, we're going to just add another couple of parts to our enemies movement. So, in last time we had our enemies here. I'm just going to move my character. Just click into it, move my character around. Where our enemy is able to move and with respect to the ground. But what we want to be able to do is now move our enemy so that it can go back and forth if it bumps into any kind of other element. My character just died there. So in some kind of structural elements. So the way we can do this actually is to use the same kind of structure that we had with our grounding. So we're going to use a line cast for that. So what you want to do is go to your enemy script, and I've got this already loaded up. So let's just go to our enemy script. And we need to add a couple of extra things to our enemy. Now, one of those things that we need to add to our enemy script, and your enemy script should look something like this, is that we need to make reference to another group of items. So previously we added some ground items. So what we need to do is reference to some structural items, and they could be called structural or something else. So we want something that is some items that are going to be kind of interacted with by our enemies. So if we just go back to Unity, what we're going to do is have items such as zoom out a little bit here. Thinking about things like I have a plant, this purple plant here, which has currently got our particle system on there, doing that, and our spikes. Now they are kind of they're items that can kill actually, but our plant doesn't, but the spikes do. Actually, I just need to edit that glider a little bit. That's quite big. Zoom that down a little bit. Okay. We want these to be able to interact with our enemies. Let's also just move our enemy down a little bit there. It's quite high up. So we want to be able to move these around, have these interact with our enemies. So what we're going to do is actually create another layer. So we had our ground layer. So if I click on here, actually sorry, there we had our grounding layer. But for these, we want another layer. So I've already done this. I've created a structure layer. But you can do this really super quick. Just click on your layer, go to add layer. You see you've got your default built-in layers here. We've added a ground layer, we've added a player layer, and I've added in a structure layer. And that's what you need to do, is add in a structure layer. Or you can call it something different. Structure's just kind of structural items that I've added, and it could be things like spike might be I don't know, killing items, or it could be plants or other things. That's okay, so you can have that layer, but I've added in structure for the game. So coming back into our script, I've said I need a layer mask for structure items, so you can add this line of code to it. Made it public, so we add that in. Okay, so moving down, what we're going to do is actually have, in a similar way that we had for our other line cast, we're going to move our item, our enemy, based upon our interaction with a line coming from our enemy. And the way that this will work is, let's bring up paint here, is that we'll have, ooh, that's bad. I have our ground, maybe form, and we'll have our Slimer as our enemy there. Looks a little bit like a whale, but you get the idea. And we currently have our line that's coming down here, our line cast, like so, which is measuring our is grounded. Then what we're going going to do is actually have a line cast come out of the body of our enemy, like so, and that detects a distance from, or come out from our body, and it's just going to cast to see whether there's actually any interaction with any object. And we want that to be quite short. So actually what we want to do is just actually reduce this down to be quite a short distance. So we only want a short distance from there. So our line cast from here would be quite a short distance from it, like so. And then if it comes up against something, so say we have some spikes, etc., like so, our spikes like that, as it interacts, then what we would do is we would reverse the direction of our enemy, as we have done with our grounded. So we have another line cast that's coming out, another collision that's detecting. So as that collides, it will check it and then it will reverse and go around. Now what we could do is set this back so you actually get an overlap, but what we're going to do is cast out straight from there. So you could move this, you could move the length of this out so it actually has an overlap if you wanted to. But we might want it to do kind of so it almost looks like it's checking it, so it's preempting that movement. So that's what we're going to do. So to be able to do that, we want to set a couple of things. So we want to check, as we did with grounded, we want to check, is it forward? So check to check if collision is in front. So we just want to check if there's a collision in front of our enemy. So it's there. And this next part actually here, I've already put a comment against it, so I'm going to rewrite that comment, is a distance. So you want a forward distance. So this is the distance, as we had here, from our enemy. So it's this distance here. So we had the distance downwards. So it's a distance from our enemy going forwards from its edge. So this is the distance from the front of enemy. So this is the distance from the front, and this is a vector too, so it's on an x and y. Because we're facing in the opposite direction, we want it to be a negative distance. It's quite short, and we don't want anything from the y. So it's along the x-axis. So this is our x, and that's our y-axis. So we have those. You can ignore this right now. This should be something we're coming on to in a second. So just ignore that right now. Okay. So we move down. I'm going to have to leave those in actually for now, but just ignore them. So we get on to that in a second. So as we move down, we just want to do a couple of things. We had this previously. So we had this line cast previously in the last video. So we were checking whether it was grounded. So what we want to do now is use that same line cast position. So this is the position. Remember from last time that what we were doing, checking actually the center of our enemy with this line cast position. So we're going to use that position that we used before in a vector 2, which was our position of our enemy minus the right from it and the width of our enemy. So using that same line cast position, but we're going to produce a check now. So you taking that line cast position from the middle of our enemy, well actually the front, sorry, not the middle, the front of our enemy, and then we're going to add the forward distance. So we're going from our enemy and moving forward from it. So we have this distance. So it's like a check, preemptive. And then we're going to check that using collisions, any of the structural items. So we are checking here. Collision with structural items. Whereas here we are check if grounded. Okay, so previously you had this. Previously we had that, so we were just checking if it was not grounded, we would rotate. But what we want to do now is or, so this is or, 2 slashes downwards, that's or. So you can use, you have and you have or within an if statement. So it's saying if it's not grounded, or is forward. So if not grounded, or is or has collided with structure. Yeah, check that. So that's what we're checking here. So this is what we'll check with it, it's a grounded item. Then what we do, we did that previous, we rotated by 180 degrees. Also what we want to be able to do is actually reverse our value for our forward motion. Now, multiplying anything by -1, it will reverse that value, so it will inverse it. So at the moment, we have that value as being minus 0.1, or it could be anything minus 1.2. But it'll make that a plus value, so it'll reverse it. So we need to reverse our forward value. So it's pointing the other way, so it's the other end of our value, our enemy. And then what we'll do, add those values back into our current rotation. So we'll just reverse it back. So what this will allow us to do is that anytime we interact with, collide with a structure, it will reverse and go back the other way. So we can save all of this, like so. We go back into our Unity. We make sure that our items, so like our spikes, are in our structure layer. So you check your layer and say it's structure. Anything else? So I got a purple plant, like so. Make sure that's in our structure. And then if we press play on this, you'll see we've got an extra line. All of our enemies have got an extra line. And you see that when they move towards plant, they will be reversed. So they'll go back the other way without having to drop off the edge of our ground. So there we go. Something that you need to remember to do is when you see in your structure items, you need to go to here in your enemy script, and that's to click on there, and you'll see all the items, all the layers that you've got, your default layers, and the ones that we've added in, ground, player, and structure, and make sure that you click on structure for all of your enemies that you have. So again, here, any of the structures. So here we've got structure, I've got structure already included, and for my fly, there you've got structure already included there. So you need to make sure you include all of those within, so that your player is able to, your enemy is able to interact with each of those items.